If you want to create a pumpkin that looks like this one here, stay tuned, you're in the right place. For this tutorial, you're going to need 4 brushes. You'll need the sketching pencil, a fill brush, a shader and texture brush, and a soft shading brush. To get started on our pumpkin sketch, I am choosing a brown shade from my pumpkin spice palette. If you want this exact palette, it is available in the second and third tiers of my Patreon. I will link it below. If not, you can really just select the colors you want. So I'm going to use my sketching pencil and start drawing. So I'm going to start by doing this kind of pointy oval shape. I rarely use the symmetry tool when I draw pumpkins because I think it gives it a more natural feel. Then I'm going to keep adding to it. Like, it obviously won't be perfect, but if you want to, you can always lower the opacity of your sketch and sketch another one on top of it, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going in again with my sketching pen on a new layer. All right, so that already looks better. It can still be adjusted, but I'm not unhappy with it. So I'm gonna stick with this. Then you can add the stem. I just do a triangular shape generally, so it's simple and it gives more attention to the actual pumpkin. You could play around with the stems, definitely. Then you're going to lower the opacity of your sketch and put it above everything else. You're going to start a new layer under it. This will allow us to see the sketch over our drawing to have kind of a guide. Now we're going to choose a orange color or whatever color you'd like and our fill brush and start drawing the middle section of the pumpkin. I like to go with a bigger brush, not only to help me maintain the shape, but also to leave a tiny bit of texture in it. So we have our first section and we're going to create the second and third sections in separate layers. That means you can add 2 layers beneath this first section you drew. So we can get started on drawing the sections. And you do the same for the third one. Now is the time to tweak the shape and make it how you want it to be. Then we can add the stem. I like to add it under everything else, as if it's kind of hidden. Next, we're going to be working on the shading. So you're going to choose your texture or shader brush and the deepest color corresponding to the shade you chose. So we're going to add a clipping mask to each of our layers and the stem as well to create the shading. We're going to start with shading the stem because it's the easiest one and it'll be done quickly. So we are going to choose our preferred size and just add some shade near the pumpkin. It will just give it some more light. If you'd like, you can also choose another darker shade. And then you're just going to use a lighter shade at the top. It's just going to give it some dimension. I'm gonna be more delicate than this. Yeah, that looks right to me. I'm gonna add some more deep brown. Yeah, I like that. Then I like to start with the middle of the pumpkin and go out. So I'm going to start with my deepest shade of orange, and I like a quite intense texture, so I'm using a bigger one. So I'm just going to start applying some shade. Then I'm going to do some light with my light color. And I'm going to go smaller here and give it this kind of impression of being 3D. Then when you remove the sketch, you see that this texture is really fun. I do like to add a bit of more intense shadow and light to the pumpkin, but we're going to get to this a bit later. So we're just going to proceed similarly to what we did on the middle section, but with each layer. So go wild. If you want to try different textures, it's really your time to experiment and find out the style you like. So again, I go with the deep color around the edges. And since part of it is hidden by the middle, I don't have to have as many sections. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill that kind of middle section with some of the lighter shade. I want it to be a tiny bit smaller. As I said, you just have to really tweak everything to your liking. But once you get those brushes you like, it's really going to become your style. So I'm going to make my brush smaller and go in with that extra little line. As I said earlier, it may look super flat right now, but it's going to be different. So let's repeat the same steps with layer number 3. Next, we're going to use our soft shading brush, and that's what's really going to make a big difference. To apply a drop shadow, we're going to create new clipping mask layers over our pumpkin. And I do like to start with the outer layers for this step. So I'm just going to take my soft shading brush with a size of your choice, and I'm going to go and create a small arc at the junction between the outer and middle layers of our pumpkin. And we're going to do the same thing with our second layer as well. For our middle layer, we're mostly going to apply this drop shadow to the bottom. And we can add that to our layers as well if we want to, but I don't think it's necessary. Then we're going to lower the opacity of our drop shadows just so they're more delicate. I like to put them at 75%, but you can really adjust it to your liking. Next, we're going to use our lighter shade and do the same thing with a new layer, but with our light. In this case, I do like to lower the opacity first. I'm going to do some 50%, I think, here. And I do think I'm going to lower the size of my brush as well and its opacity. This is a too small brush, definitely. This is too big. Then we're just going to keep applying to our other layers where the light hits. You can play with pressure, with amounts of shade and everything. Then we're gonna also lower your opacity here. Here, I do think it needs a tiny bit of adjusting. I'm gonna restart that section because it's not looking as I want it to. The middle is looking way more like what I want to. So this is always your time to adjust and try again. If you feel like things are not looking exactly like you want to, all right, so I am quite happy with that. If you want to, it's also the time to adjust some shading. If you want to, you can play around with blending modes and everything, but I'm going to keep it really simple and just add a new layer for this illustration. Clip it, play around with the shading, just so it has this balance that you're looking for. Like here, I feel like it needs more, but again, it's really personal taste at this point. And I'm going really, really softly. I'm going to spin it just so it's more comfortable. So that's a secret, really. You just go back to whatever you think is cool, and you can always modify it. All right, this is already looking better. I'm going to lower this here a tiny bit. Awesome. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this layer here. All right, so I'm happy with this. I'm going to make drop shadows a bit more opaque now that my shading is at the stage I want it to be. If you want to, at this stage, you could decide to add a lighter shade to add more dimension, or a darker shade. It's really up to you. I do like both, really. I'm going to lower the opacity. I'm going to do like the middle ground. Yeah, I do like this. So this is the version I'm going to go for. So here you go. You have a pumpkin. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please make sure to hit the like button and drop a follow. It's super appreciated and helps me towards those goals. It also allows me to create more tutorial like this one. So yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I will catch you guys in the next one.